Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. Merck, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, is teaming up with a drone startup to test cutting-edge vaccine delivery. For more on this technology and partnership, we're joined by Hannan Parvizian, who is the founder and CEO of that drone company that's working with Merck, which is named Volansi. Hannan, great to have you here with us today. Tell us exactly what you and Merck are hoping this pilot program accomplishes.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. With this pilot program that we've launched in North Carolina, we are hoping to be able to demonstrate deliveries of temperature-controlled vaccines to rural areas from a central production facility that Merck has in Wilson, North Carolina. And the idea is that we can demonstrate successfully delivering vaccines and other medical supplies on a regular basis to a hospital network with our partners Vidant, and eventually be able to deliver all sorts of vaccines and medical supplies directly point to point with our vertical takeoff and landing drones.
What type of load can this carry through the air?
Yeah, what's unique about this platform that we're using, our Volansi 10, it has a 10-pound payload capacity and can cover a 50-mile radius on a single trip. And that allows us to carry not only significant amount of payload, but also the cargo box that is required to maintain the temperature of the payload throughout the mission.
Okay, and so do you see drones playing a big role in the development of the coronavirus vaccine and the distribution and accessibility, I should say?
Absolutely. I think the key word for us is accessibility. So obviously we're not developing the vaccines, but as you know, once vaccines are developed and are out there, distribution will be a key challenge. And we truly believe that autonomous aerial deliveries will enable access to all areas, both in high infrastructure countries like here in the US and also in other low infrastructure countries in emerging markets like Africa and other places in the world.
Based on what's being explored by the pilot program, where are you seeing the prioritized delivery for vaccines at this point in time as you're working with Merck on this type of strategy?
So are you asking about prioritized deliveries of COVID vaccines or in general with this pilot program?
In general.
Yeah, so right now we're focused on rural areas in North Carolina. The idea is to be able to deliver to the healthplex that we're partnering with and essentially other rural sites, whether it's a hospital network or a school. And I think that's how we will be ramping up, starting out with more rural areas and eventually moving into much more densely populated areas. Obviously, all of this is in guidelines and constrained by regulations that we work with in partnership with the FAA.
What type of other kind of medical solutions could this extend to, given the payload that this can carry?
Yeah, so really all sorts of vaccines and medical supplies, even blood. I think across the board, this is going to cover more than 80% of all sorts of drugs, vaccines, and medical supplies. There are probably some specialty items that are heavier or require much more care or are not compatible with this type of delivery. But right now, we're not seeing any sort of big limitations on the type of payloads we can transport.
And just lastly, a frequent guest on Cheddar is medical drone delivery company Zipline. They work in Africa primarily, but also testing its tech in North Carolina. If you can, very quickly, compare and contrast what you do versus what Zipline does.
Absolutely. So Volansi's unique approach is to use vertical takeoff and landing technology, which we really think is the enabler of this vertical mobility revolution. So that means we don't require any sort of ground infrastructure for launch and recovery of our vehicles. The technology that Zipline has adopted is much more heavier in infrastructure. It's a catapult launcher that is required to be recovered by a net. And we definitely see the limitations to kind of wide-scale adoption of that technology versus vertical takeoff and landing, which allows us to literally take off from anywhere and land anywhere, which really allows us to scale and operate across the world.
Hannan Parvizian, who is the founder and CEO of Volansi, joining us here today. Thanks so much for the time, Hannan.